What's up everyone, welcome to my Minecraft world called the Land of Wanderers. So I've been playing Minecraft, what's it been, like 10 months I think? About? And something I've not really dabbled in so far is redstone. We've got a few things, like I got a sugarcane farm down there that uses redstone, but that's, you know, from a tutorial. Oh, we have 3 little micro farms over here that are redstone, but once again, I didn't really design those. So I figured today is the day. We are ripping off that redstone band-aid and we are going to build our first own, fully original-ish redstone project, which is going to be our Matic. See, I got my book right here. Now, what am I on about, you might ask? Let me explain. So in between episodes, I was doing the usual cleaning up and watching some YouTube alongside that. And I've been watching quite a bit of Impulse and a lot of Etho lately. And they're very techie guys, right? And then I thought, hey, in this game called Minecraft, it's been quite a while since I have gone mining. So I went mining. And then when I was done with the mining, I did what I usually do and make a big like tower of ores and then just like go to town on them with my fortune pickaxe. And then I collect everything and then smelt it away in my house and then store that in my storage room. And that's when I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I didn't have to do that second half? What if I could just mine the stuff and then the rest pretty much takes care of itself? And that, everybody, is the premise of today's episode. We're diving into the deep end with our first project. So I've already got a bit of a roadmap in mind to start things off, and I've got that written down in this here book and quill. Let's read it together. The Matic, Zordo's first redstone project. Let's go over to page 2. We got step 1, the plan, which actually the plan might be the concept, but anyways. So in this contraption that we're going to be making in today's episode, I want it to be a thing where I can just like mine the stuff with my fortune pickaxe, but it'll automatically be grabbed and sorted directly into a storage system without me having to pick it up and manually place everything. So over here, I added what resources do I want to be sorted or that I want to be involved in the project. And I have them up here, up on this place. We have 9 in total. Starting from left to right, we have quartz, coal, lapis, redstone, diamond, emerald, iron, copper, gold. So all of these are things that we can mine, and I want it to all pass through the same system. And we can see here that I have auto sorters and blueprint. So we're going to start with a first concept because yes, I'm going to be building auto sorters. So of course, I'm not going to like figure this out on my own. We'll do some research, but I want to have like the building be mine. Anyways, you'll see. So one thing that's important to note is I got a separation just about here. So everything on the left of the iron are all things that once they're mined, they're in their final form. Like they can be transformed into other things, but you're not going to smelt any of this. Everything here is going to have to be smelted. So I think we're going to have an auto smelter or some kind of smelter implemented into the build as well. So we're going to have multiple filters because everything's going to go into the same input, but we don't want these passing through the furnaces because they'll just clog everything up. So now we're going to go find a nice little spot, take a cup of coffee, and then start making our first blueprint. Or I guess concept of the building. This is a nice spot. And here's the blueprint. So we got this separated into 3 levels, and I think we'll make this vertical would be the easiest so we can use gravity on our side. But very simply, we start up top, we have the level 1, which is the input. So all the ores that we looked at before, we're going to put those all into, I'm thinking have a singular input would be the coolest thing. If we would separate the inputs by ore, we wouldn't need a sorter, and that would make the rest of the process easier. But to challenge myself, and I think it'd be cooler, if we have just one input for everything, would be the coolest thing. And then we have a filter / a sorter, and it's going to separate everything. But in the terms of the infrastructure, we're going to have like 2 halves. So one half is going to be stuff that's going to be sent to the furnace area, and the other stuff that doesn't need to be smelted, like diamonds, coal, and that is going to be sent through another filter straight into the storage here on level 3. Everything else, the iron, the gold, and the copper that needs to be smelted will pass through level 2, which is the furnace area, which I think we're going to have a kelp farm or something to fuel it. And then once that's all smelted up, it's going to pass through another filter to finally end up in the same storage as all the rest of the stuff. How feasible is this? I am not quite sure. I'm pretty sure it actually should be quite feasible. All right, so what I was saying is I'm not worried about the feasibility of it. I've seen people who do stupidly insane things with redstone. More so that I have no clue how big this is going to be, because I've never really done this kind of thing, but I think it's going to be pretty big. Okie doke, so if we open this again, we head to this page. So we've got our resources all sorted. We're going to need auto sorters. I don't know why I put a question mark there. And we have our blueprint. I think for the planning, we're okay. Now if we go to step 2, and it is the research. So I'm going to have to figure out how to make an auto sorter, why or how does it work, how many do I need, and what am I going to use for a fuel source. So I think I've already taken care of the fuel source. I'm pretty sure kelp is going to be the easiest for me. And that way, if I want to build with more kelp blocks, then I'll have an easy way to get some. I don't know quite how many sorters I'm going to need. I guess I could probably count and figure it out. I'm going to need we'll figure it out as we're going. So I have already been researching a little bit to try to figure out like the basics of redstone and specifically sorter systems. So if any of you are like me and are not really familiar with it nor comfortable with redstone just because you don't have any much knowledge of it, I'm leaving down what I've used to research in the description. I'm going to try to either just leave links to the videos, or a playlist would be pretty useful, wouldn't it? Notably, I've been using a series from Nico is Lost where he actually goes into building a sorter system. I'm going to use that as a big reference to figure out how I'm going to design like the rest of this. Because remember, I don't want to just have the system working and have it in my world. I want to understand how it works so that I can make more things like this in the future and start playing with redstone a bit more. But that all comes from understanding. Alright, so I've been thinking about what I just said about having, well, how many sorters I need, and I think I've actually figured it out. It actually could be quite simple in terms of numbers. So I think I only need 2, essentially. I'm going to have the initial one that's going to separate all the smeltable things from the non-smeltable things. And I think once that's done, everything that's not smeltable is already going to be sorted. And that'll be taken care of. I don't know why I'd want to put it through another filter unless I'm not thinking about something. And then even though the storages could be at the same place, I don't have to like link up the units, right? So once these are linked up to their storages, everything that's smeltable over here can be like sent to their storages afterwards as well. There shouldn't be any overlap if I like wire it correctly, I think. So I'm going to need only 2 filters, and the first filter is going to need 9 units, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 9 units. And then the last one only needs 3. So I'm going to need 12 units in total, if I'm not mistaken. And that's just for the sorters. And with that being said, I think we can move on to step 3. Step 2 will be like, it's not done. I'm still researching, but we'll like do it in parallel. So step 3 is the location. So I've not planned this thing out in creative yet, and I think I'm going to have to use a bit of creative to get like the main pieces down to make sure they work. Otherwise it might take me forever. But I don't know how big this is going to be because it's not planned yet, and I'd have no real reference point. So I figured back here in the back of the village could be a nice little spot since it's still like empty and wide open. And look how cool this looks. I've already prepared all of this land. So I'm going to put a short time lapse here while I'm talking, but all of this was all like a hill before, and that was actually all holy. So filled that in, and then I cleaned up this first section here like you can see, and then I realized, oh, there's a 90-degree angle that I forgot. So I went to fixing that, and that's when I figured, hey, this like little cliff here looks so cool. Let's just run it around this whole like plateau. And as you can see, we have it coming across all the way to our first little house here that we had when we moved into the village. I think this adds a nice little dimension to the village. It looks really, really cool. Of course, this wall isn't super detailed. I tried to keep it mostly just like stone, and you know, I got like some stuff in, like some diorite here and some andesite here. We're probably going to texture it later, but it's not the focus of today's episode, and I don't know how much of this is going to be visible. I don't know if I'm going to put a bunch of stuff in front of it. So as is, I think it looks pretty cool. It looks like it fits, and we might detail it later. The only thing that I don't like right now is with like this was a hill before, so with this cliff coming out like this, we've had to do our stairs this way, and they kind of stick out odd. So we might fix that either in this episode or in another episode, make it look a bit nicer. But as a whole, I think this is a nice little upgrade and a fair bit of landscaping done for the village. And our terrain is all nice now. There are no like holes in the village for the first time in forever, which is really, really nice. Step 4 was the materials. And as you can see, I left this blank because honestly, I don't know. I mean, I know there's going to be a bunch of redstone stuff, like redstone and some furnaces and some torches and some hoppers, but I don't have like a blueprint of it, so I don't have an exact number. So I've left that blank. Maybe I will fill that in afterwards and add how many materials I needed for the build. That could be cool, right? Maybe I'll make a blueprint if you guys want to download it. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll suck. I'm thinking I want this to be like in the corner here. So I think if I like from here, let's zoom out a bit. From here, if we dedicate this like section here to the whole machine / build, I think we should have enough space. It's a pretty big like squared off area, and we can still dig into the mountain a bit here. This has not been like finished at all, as you can see. Neither on the outside of the village. To the outside of the village, I've just been ignoring this. We'll fix it up eventually. But anyways, I think this could be a pretty good spot for what we're doing today. So I think if we start off here, then we have a fair bit of space to head back. We could dig into the mountain if we need to. And I just don't want to like destroy the wall too much. So I guess without further ado, it's time we start working on this thing. Okay, doke. So I'm going to bring you guys back in while I'm working on this. And it's been a while since I've looked at the reference videos to get like an idea. I've seen that when they do it, they have their storages all like in line with this. And I think this would look cooler. Right now, the problem I have is that, let's say I'll grab whatever, this, and I stick this in here. It'll feed into this one. It'll feed into the bottom one. It'll skip the middle. Even if this one's full, it'll just get stuck in this hopper and it won't go into this chest. So I figured I could make them like staggered like this. So when I put something, it'll come into this input and then feed into this chest. But actually, it'll always like come here, but then get into the hopper, then in here into the hopper and fill this one up. And then only once this is full will it start backing up the other ones, which would give me more space than this. Honestly, I don't think I need 3. I don't have that much stuff, but I figure we future-proof and make it big now, and then it'll be done for quite a while. If we stagger it, it takes up more space as well. So that's it. That's what, just like bringing guys in while I learn and figure this out. This might be obvious for some of you. I am going to look a bit at the videos that I was referencing in the references, see if I can find something that could resolve this. But if not, I think we're going to have them staggered and then we'll just make it look nice with decorations later. All right, so I figured it out. / I've watched a video and I get it now, I think. So for anyone wondering, the series I'm going to link from Nico is Lost is like a lifesaver. I'll try to explain it the best I can right now. But really, I'm just going to leave the big explaining to him. It's really well done and it deserves the watch time. So the problem before was that I was taking items from my inventory and sticking them right into the hopper. And it causes like a sequencing mess up that won't like affect the final product, because since I was manually putting things into the inventory, there was no pulling action done by the hopper. Thus, it could push the item directly into the chest before entering a cooldown, and that's what the information I was missing. With having an input chest above the hopper, when the hopper pulls the item, that is an action that'll trigger a cooldown, I think, so that it cannot push it into this chest. And since that happens while it's on cooldown, this hopper will pull it, and then since that one pulled this one, it'll go on cooldown. So then the only thing I can do is this hopper will pull from this one, and then it'll push into here since it's the only place left to go. And then once this is filled, so I'm not going to demonstrate it because it'll take too long, but once this is filled, then this will get backed up, and then once this is backed up, this will no longer be able to be pulled. So after the cooldown, it will end up pushing into here, and then same thing when we get to the 3rd level. That's the way I understand it, and I think this will work. So basically, I don't have to stagger it, and I just need to have an input chest for all of the units. So what I'm thinking is we're going to have an input chest on each and every one of these, and then have the actual sorting bit going into these single chests here. Could be barrels, I don't know. All right, this is exciting. It's really fun. So I got like this done so far, and I think this is a good time to bring you guys back in and show you my process. And I think I'm going to end up designing most of the actual interior in creative, because I just realized that if I paste just a part of it and then I start putting another part on and then it doesn't work and I have to redo, like let's say I make it to step 3, And then that undoes step 1. It's going to be a real pain in the behind to do in survival. I know people of old used to do it, but I am not people of old. Anyways, this is what we got so far. So essentially, you can see here that I separate it into 2 modules. The scale of this, I'm not quite sure. We're going to see as we evolve this. But essentially, we have the non-smeltables and the smeltables here on this side. So the idea is this is going to be like the first layer. So this is going to be the input. We're going to like make the actual input mechanism a bit later. But we have our filters in. So everything's going to be inputted at the same place, and it's going to land into this water stream, which is going to go here, over to here, and then land up against this honey block here, and then ride this little edge pixel here, and get picked up into the hopper that is associated with its item. So they're all lined up on the bottom with the blocks that we see over to here. So the first one's coal. We got coal in here, and that's true for the whole line. And for all the smeltables, very simply, instead of having their own like a separator, since we're going to go into a smelter later, we just have the overflow. Oh, darn it, I gotta stop doing that. We'll fix that later. We have an overflow system to gather all of that. So you notice here we have like this big ladder of barrel hopper, and the idea is, since everything here doesn't have to be smelted, once it's sorted, I just need to get down to the storage. And I figured this was the easiest way. It's saving a bit of materials on hoppers because I'm like alternating between a hopper and a barrel. And eventually, if for some reason I get stupid rich, then they have like extra storage. So now the next step would be to figure out, once all of the smeltable things are in this overflow chest, how do I get that into a smelting area and actually figure out the smelting area? And then once everything's smelted, getting that into these chests. Ideally, with the most automation possible. I might keep a few manual steps in there just because I think it's fun, but I'd like to really get a few bit of features in here. Hi! So just after doing that clip, I showed the machine to my wife because I was so excited, and I think we might have a slight problem. I'm not quite sure, so we're going to do a test. What I did as a test to show her is I just had a bunch of, like a stack of all the ores, all these in my hand, and I threw that into the system. And this filter worked well, but it was too slow, and a lot of the stuff that's supposed to be filtered here ended up in the overflow, which is not what we want. So what I want to see is, do I have to take that into account, or is it going to be a non-issue in real-time gameplay? So we're going to go to survival. This is the input method that we're going to use. So we're going to have the ore in our offhand, and we're going to like click both the right and left mouse at the same time. And we get this like kind of, all right. See, some coal ended up in here anyways. All right, so update on this. I've doubled everything except for the emeralds, because when do you ever have like 30 emerald ores, right? So I've doubled everything up so that they each have 2 filters, and I've done a few tests. I'll do it now. I can show you if I go down here, the coal sorters are both empty as well as the overflow. So we're going to go here and we're going to dump a stack of coal. And we'll watch it go, and we'll see most of it will be collected. Some of it will go to the overflow. So remember, we had a stack. If we head down here to our chest, they're still coming in. We'll give them a moment. All right, so we have 29 plus 25. That's 54. So we lost 10 in the overflow. Yep. I think I'm okay with that. Of course, the issue could be that if I like put too much stuff in it, anything that's not supposed to be smeltable will come into the overflow and then maybe block up the system when it, like the furnaces, because if a diamond goes into a furnace, it'll block it because it won't be able to be smelted. But I don't think I'll be able to mine faster than this will collect it. I think with me mining it manually into the input, it should slow me down just enough that this system should be able to keep up. Worst case scenario, what I'm thinking is when we come to our overflow here, we might just feed this into another sorter or not. I'll see. Now, what I'm wondering is, do I keep this as is? Because I don't think I was okay with that amount of storage. So I don't know if I should just keep this all doubled, or if I erase one row of storage for each thing and then just rewire this going into one single storage unit, and then I can have some free space here to do something else. I think that's what I'm going to do. So for each of these that are doubled, we're going to erase like this row here, maybe just like link this up into this barrel and then feed it all into one single storage. And that way, with this free space, we could either just have some space to move around to check the wiring or something is clogged up, or maybe that's where I could hook up some auto crafters to craft them into blocks for more efficient storage. That could be neat. Okie dokie, so update on the auto crafters. we're going to be giving up on that for this episode. For this project, I think it's the step too far for my brain right now. We might figure it out later, but right now I don't really want to. I've been trying some things, but it's not working. And yeah, I don't think it's actually necessary. You've seen my storage space. You've seen how much stuff I actually have. I don't think we're going to need that. But I do have one put in that does work. So here for the coal is the only one we're going to use because coal is probably the thing that I tend to have more in mass quantities that would probably benefit from it the most. If I put the coal in here, it'll start feeding into it. And essentially what I have here is an observer to feed itself energy to power up the crafter here. That'll send blocks into this system that feeds it into the storage down here. Alrighty, so update on the whole thingamajiggy. I got to work on the fuel system that I'm going to be using for the smelting area. And like in the blueprint, I wrote that I was going to do some kelp. So I got to work on some kelp farms, and I know there's like a million probably designs on YouTube, but I tried to go at myself, which explains this huge mess behind me. But I've got something that's pretty cool. So the first attempts here are ones that I wanted to be like passive, kind of like sugarcane or bamboo farms, which is what these were based off of, but I couldn't get it to work quite right because of the water. I couldn't get the wiring to work the way I wanted to. So I kind of ditched the idea. And before moving on to what actually worked, like you can notice the multiple iterations, and I guess tip or maybe thought for any of you who are looking to getting into this kind of thing, the Axiom mod is super useful. For building, it's quite useful. That's what it's mostly used for. I use it a bit. I use it for like 2 builds so far, and I like it, but I also like building by hand sometimes. It depends. For redstone, what's really useful, as far as I can tell right now, is, as you can see here, I have multiple iterations of the same farm. Same thing over here, where I start off with like idea 1 and then expand on it. You can really easily just use the clone tool. Like I'll do it over here. And just like select the area that has your machine, and then just like pop it over to the side or something. So that way you can test new things. And if whatever you test doesn't work, you always have this. It's kind of like having multiple save files for a project. And it literally takes like 10 seconds to set up. And then once that's done, like I messed this one up because I don't have my water block down there, but it doesn't matter. And that makes it super easy, or at least time saving, to like go from this to this to this, because I don't have to rebuild it every time. So that might be worth it. For everyone who's on Bedrock, sorry. But anyways, coming back to the kelp machine, once I ditched that idea, I moved over to like a micro farm idea inspired by the micro farms that I use for carrots and potatoes and wheat in my world. So this is kind of the same idea modified for some kelp. And once I got this working, we moved on to the second iteration. What we have is now an expansion up top for a collection system. So this water stream leads into this hopper, which leads into this furnace, which can lead to another hopper to feed into whatever I want to feed it in, which leads to iteration 3, which is the same thing with a system leading into a crafter underneath, which is fun because I get to use more crafters. So this is empty, but it works. If I let this work, you can see the kelp moving into the stream, which is really fun to look at. And if we just give it a moment to start filling up, I'll speed this up for you guys. Alright, so we just need one piece left. Let's look here. I already have 30. We'll see it go up to 31 anytime now. And there we are. Let's go ahead and close this for now. So then with this, we move up to iteration 3, which is the same base design, but I wanted to have a bit more kelp production because it was quite slow. So we've gone ahead and copied the module up twice. Oh no, once. Twice is over here. Once to see if this worked, and it does work. I've also changed the furnace over to a smoker just to be a bit quicker. Same idea, if I activate this, it'll start sending kelp into this tube, which is the same tube as here, and feeding into that same hopper system. So now I have twice the amount of kelp being farmed up. So with that concept working, I went ahead and went to version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5? Which is the exact same thing with another module up top, and that's 3. So technically I could go up as much as I want until I hit the build height. I think 3 is going to be good. Maybe we'll do 4, I don't know. But I think 3 is going to be good. So we have that all set up and working. So if you move over to this final iteration here, one thing that I've gone and done is, I actually haven't done it here, but I'm going to do it right now, is I've noticed that when the things shoot up, they tend to get stuck in like in between the blocks here. So if we leave one space, it tends to just like pop up, fall down, and then follow the stream a bit more easily. So I've cleaned it up for these two. You can kind of see the holes. But now we have 3 working modules leading into this system, which I've gone ahead and expanded down to lead into a double chest so that the kelp can accumulate here. This hopper minecart will go ahead and pick it up and drop it into these hoppers, which will feed them into 4 smokers, which I think are okay for now. Which we'll have to start with coal initially, but then we can like just use the output of this to refeed it so that it'll be auto-sustaining, which I could actually like make this with a minecart now that I think about it, but I don't think I'm gonna go that far. I think it'll be a bit too finicky and not really necessary. I can just very easily take the output and refill it with kelp blocks once I need to. But anyways, the kelp will get fed into here, which will go down to these 2 double chests, with this minecart we'll grab and then drop into this auto crafter. And once it gets here, it's a bit slow, but if I build this up and then let it run in the background while I'm building the rest of the build, like the rest of the machines, or actually just the exterior and interior, it should build up quite a bit of kelp. And I don't actually have to be here to use it, I just have to set it up, so there's nothing stopping me in my world when working around the village from just like starting the machine and then just walking off and letting it run in the background. It's been about 2 minutes later and we are at 17 dried kelp blocks, and we still have a bunch here. I have a buttload, so we're actually limited by like the smelting speed. So I'm thinking either if we wanted to speed this up, I need to add more furnaces. I don't know if that's necessary. I mean, if I double the furnaces, then it'll smelt up twice as fast. Well, not twice as fast, but twice as much per time. And maybe I could like double this module. So I think just because it's cool, just because it's cool, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make version, I think this would be 6 of this, or 7 actually, with more furnaces and more another crafter system. And yeah, I think we'll call it for that, and then we'll see how we like smush everything together. Then we're just going to need another furnace system kind of like this for the actual iron, gold, and copper. All right, so I've gone ahead and done this, which is what I said I was going to do. So we have doubled up on the crafters down here, and that works fine. I've got a problem with the furnaces, however, smokers, where it collects like 4 or 5 every time it passes by here. So by the time it passes the first array of furnaces, it empties itself out, so these get nothing. Now I'm sure there's a way I could work around this. A would be to let this fill up before actually sending off the hopper minecart, but I kind of just prefer having this sucker running all the time, and then just if it stops because of chunk loading or whatever, then I just come back and give it a push. Or it would be to, like, when this fills up, have it be split into 2 so that when it like passes by here, it loads up this array of hoppers, and then it passes by another collection system which loads up this one. which would indeed speed it up. But I'm not sure if the effort is worth the outcome in this case. So I think what I'm going to do is just take away like this added bit and have the original furnace set up and keep the doubled up crafters. And I think that should be fine for what I need out of this system. All right, so I think this is going to be the final update for the kelp farm slash smelter, whatever. So if you look over to this version here, over to this, what I've done is I've taken like this top part, which is the actual kelp farm, and I flipped it so that everything is a bit more in line and a bit less crooked. I think this can be more build aroundable. And what I've gone and done is for the crafters, I noticed that when it was just one minecart going around, kind of the same problem with the furnaces up there. What was happening was by the time this one like came around here, it emptied everything into this crafter and this would get nothing, so it was pretty much just wasted space. So with this kind of array, it's like separated in half, and both crafters get fed at pretty much the same rate, which leads to better rates, I think. Now with this done, we can go ahead and probably move this over to here. But I think before doing that, we're going to take that design and come up with a smelter, which I think we're just going to rip off this here to smelt all these things and then tack that onto the bottom. So I think instead of developing a whole other thing, I could just as well make a version 8 of this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A version 9 of this with a smelter tacked on underneath it, where we can feed all of the overflow here, which is going to be copper, iron, and gold, so that it can be smelted. And I think if I'm planning ahead, the easiest would be, rather than having the smelter directly underneath it, maybe I could have it to the side. Though actually, I don't think it matters. So I'll get to doing that, and I'll bring you guys back once again when we have some progress done. Alrighty, welcome back. As you can see, we've made a third copy of the main sorting area. And that's because if we come over here to our whatever iteration of the kelp farm, we can see that underneath what I've done is I've added what I'm going to call a output divider. So essentially, the dried kelp blocks that end up in here get split up evenly in between these two barrels, which then gets sent to two separate modules for the smelting system for the copper and the diamond and whatever. And I know there's only 8, but they're blast furnaces. They'll be a bit faster. And I've yet to figure out how to evenly divide it. Everything I've seen so far, I haven't actually researched this part of it. I'm just going with what I can figure out on my own right now because it's fun. But every like smelter that I remember seeing in other Let's Plays has been manually started. So when they fill up the chests, they fill up to a certain point and then they send it off so that it can like divide it more equally between quite a bit of furnaces. So eventually we'll make a super smelter somewhere else in our world, but for this I don't think it's necessary. All I have to do now is like I'll copy this over here and just link this up here to the sorter slash storage and here to the overflow chest. All right, I'm really pumped. I think we're done with the design. Everything's cool. Doing this has made me feel so smart. I'm gonna have to do more. I've changed a few things, so I'll try to catch everything real quick. Over here to the kelp farm, I've fixed the wiring for the 2 upper modules. So I think they're empty right now. Oh no, they're not. And as you can see, everything works. So if I set this one too, oops, that one's also producing. And if I open the last one, that one should also produce. Oh, it's empty. I had a problem where when I activated these 2 upper ones, everything was running right, but this first dispenser wouldn't empty itself. So I removed the repeater that was here. I can't recall. And I think maybe what was happening was the timing of it, because it was actually like you could hear it trying to shoot and you could see it trying to shoot, but nothing could come out. So I'm guessing the piston might have been blocking it. I'm not quite sure. But anyways, I've gone and redone that and now everything works fine. Let's stick to this section here for now. When it comes down to the final collection area here for the kelp, I've basically removed the loop here and added in a back and forth system. And what that does is when it gets enough stuff, now the fuel is empty, but it actually dispenses to all 4 furnaces. What was happening before is it was only filling up 3 of them, but this way all 4 are filled up. With all of that being fixed, we have these 2 rails, as you can see. From the overflow system here, we have this hopper minecart going across this line that'll drop everything off into these 2 hoppers. So that's another one of my output dividers, if you will. And we basically have 2 lines coming here to pick up stuff from the hoppers and lead them to these first 4 rows of blast furnaces, and this longer line here coming to this one, and everything fills up just about evenly, so we're pretty efficient. And then when that is done, we have this hopper minecart going around underneath all 8 furnaces and dropping everything off underneath here into the storage system. Now for the sorter here, not much has changed. However, if we move up to this level, we can kind of see I have this tunnel coming up here. So this is going to be the input system. We might make it look nicer in the actual world, but this is the idea. And we've gotten the same level as the kelp farm. So when I'm coming to do whatever I want, I can just easily like start all these. And while that's running, I can start mining my ores. So the problem I had is that even with the doubled filters for every item, if I were to like throw stacks in of stuff, it would still be too much for hopper speed, and some of the stuff that's not supposed to go into the overflow would end up in the overflow and then inevitably block the furnaces. And I still don't think it would have been an issue because I'm going to be mining everything, but just in case, I couldn't let it go, and I fixed it, and now I'm pretty confident that everything's cool. What we've done is we moved up a few blocks here so that everything's on the same level, and we have water inside this like box, and the water actually isn't doing much. I think what I'm using water for is that when stuff I mine like the ores and it pops up, I just want the water to push it back down and not pop up on the top or to the sides here. And the really cool thing is when I actually mine everything, these hoppers are going to take up the ores that are mined and send them into this dispenser that I can activate with this system. And this, oh, see there's stuff in it. It sends stuff out. I think this is every tick. I'm not quite sure, but very regularly, and the sorting system can keep up. So now actually this is a bad example since it's all iron and it's going to go into the overflow. But let's say, for example, we take diamonds and then we throw that in there. So the hoppers will pick them up and it'll start dispensing it at a very regular rate. And you can see it never goes past those 2, which are the diamond inputs, which is very satisfying to me. And then when we're done using the system, we can just turn it off. All right, that's pretty much all done now. And it didn't take that long. I was quite surprised. Let's take a look from my place. So from the, whoops. So this is my front door, and there it is, right? And I think with the size of this, by the time we actually get covered up, it's going to be quite cool, and it's going to be big, but I don't think it's going to be too big. So I think we're all set for that. If we take a look from the porch upstairs. Yep, I think it's pretty good. Now, everything seems to be working fine. There are a few quirks that I've noticed so far. I haven't tested it yet, but over here in the kelp section, for some reason, I'm not quite sure why. So if we go one step at a time, I've ran this already to get some dried kelp, and now for some reason, compared to my test world, these rightmost dispensers, like this one, and this one, and this one, they dispense, well, the bottom one dispenses a lot slower than the other ones, and the top 2, it seems like the leftmost dispensers aren't dispensing really, and I don't know why. So I'd like to get that fixed eventually, because I just don't know what the problem is exactly. But it's not too much of an issue, because when I had all 3 of them running, at one point I went away for 5 minutes doing something and I came back and it was actually producing way too much for the system. There were like 5 stacks bundled up here that were trying to get absorbed hopper speed, but it was way too slow, so I had to grab it and just chuck it into the barrel. So the system works, but we have some timing things to be careful with. So I think it'll do it for our first machine, but definitely some room for improvement here. And the main thing that's going not quite as I wanted it to is if we head down to here. So for some reason, when it picks up the dried kelp and it sends it to the 8 furnaces here, I don't quite know why, but for some reason it's not spreading it equally. And I tried looking and I can't find any reason for any of these hoppers to be powered. I think like these torches are quite far from them, I believe, and it's doing it on the other side as well where there are no torches. My working theory so far is that the actual system works as intended. I'm thinking maybe since I started with 0 kelp when I actually started up these modules up there, since technically that does only come down 1 kelp at a time, when it like gets smelted and separated, it probably was just too slow to fill up everything. So maybe like one block was produced at a time, grabbed by this hopper minecart, and then sent into the first hopper that it went by. And it's not necessarily a problem of like dispensing things evenly, it's just that it only had one thing to dispense. So by the time it passed over the first hopper, then it was already empty. That's what I'm thinking anyways. So yeah, definitely some room for improvement there. I wasn't recording. Alright, so I went home and I gathered the item frames with the stuff so we could actually place them right there for now to have an idea of where everything is going to be, and then we can make it look cooler once we have our interior all done and our exterior as well. And I also have a shulker box here full of stuff that we can use to test run our machine to make sure everything else is working fine. And I want to show you guys, when I went mining, I came across these. So I have this deep slate coal ore, which I'm not quite sure how rare it is. I feel like I get quite a bunch of it, but I think someone told me at one point it was rare. But what I do know is rare are these 2 diamond ores here that I found that I don't think generate very much anymore because most of the diamond is on deep slate level. So I thought that was pretty cool and I wanted to share it with you guys. But now, without further ado, let's go and test out our machine. Alright, so step 1, turn on the machine. Step 2, fortune pickaxe. And now we can just grab anything we want and start using our machine. Alright. Alright, so I stopped because as you can see, with copper and stuff, it seems that we are actually too fast for the machine, so I guess we'll just let it drain a bit. While it's doing that, hopefully none of this despawns. Let's go see if everything seems to be sorting right. So here we have only coal and it's in blocks, that's nice. What's here? This one's empty, but this might be quartz. This one's empty. This one's empty. This one's empty. This one's also empty, so otherwise it's just copper. I think we've only mined copper and coal, so everything's... Oops, I fell. Everything seems to be working fine. We just have a bit of a speed issue. Maybe what I could do, not today, but maybe what I could do is just simply double this. That might help. Well, I'm gonna just do this until my shulker box is empty, and I'll bring you guys back in once that's all done and we can assess the situation. Alright, so we are just about done. We just have the lapis to clear up, so I think we'll let that run and we'll go check out the results down below. So if we come here, we have a bunch of coal, that's all sorted. Our diamonds are sorted here. We've got our lapis, nice. What's here? This must be quartz. I didn't have any. Emeralds and redstone, so this is quartz. Cool. Everything seems to be sorted well. Yep, and some gold, no iron because we used it all. That's awesome. So now we can go ahead and put this back in its place. Let's just for now grab all of this and just have it set up like so. We'll make it look nicer in the future, but for now I just want to be able to find my stuff easily. Awesome. And with that, we might as well come over to my house here. And we can clear out these 3 storages. Right, and that reminds me, I forgot to show you guys, but there are honey blocks in this design, so I had to make like a little temporary bee farm, or a honey farm rather. And here it is. It's not going to stay here. I tried to make something really, really quick just to have a place to get some honey. So I kind of went with the same style as this. And I mean, it's not horrible, but obviously it was made in like 10 minutes. But it's actually quite easy to make for a bee farm. You just literally need bee nests or beehives and bees and flowers, and that's it. Which is cool because that leaves us a lot of liberty to make something else in the future that's going to be cooler. But yeah, this is where I've been getting my honey for now. Just in here. So now what I have to do is go turn off the machine. It must be done. And now we just have to cover this beast up. Let's see what we can do. Alright, so I figured it might be cool to continue with like the theme of the video and bring you guys in while I'm actually building this rather than doing a big time lapse and boom, it's done. Kind of to keep on doing like what we're doing with the machine, and something that I quite like when the YouTubers I watch do. So yeah, we're gonna do that. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you enjoyed this kind of pacing for a change. But anyways, so here is the, like, I guess first draft of what we got going. Once again, I've taken that and just copied it over here, and I started off with the shapes. So while looking at the actual build itself, it really lends itself to a tower with this pokey bit here. And yeah, so that's kind of like where I started. I had sketched out like kind of building with like a tower on the side, and I kind of see the tower here. I don't know if it'd quite be a tower with its shape, but I think it still could be considered as such. And in my sketch, like, this was wider, but with the machine, that's how wide it is. And if I bring it out, I can only bring it out about to here, if that, because it'll be right up against the wall in the village. And even then, I don't think it'd be quite nice if it was right up against the wall. So it's a bit more vertical than I had initially planned, but I think it's okay. I don't think it looks too odd. If anything, I think I could move it over 3 blocks. Let's actually go and check. Right, so back in here, see, this is the machine, and it's like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. That would bring it right up against the wall. Now if you head back in here, let's see. Whoop. So 1, 2. So that would be 3, 4, 5, 6. So the wall is here. So we could probably bring it out by 3, like I said. So that is right up against the wall. I think it'll be worth it to push it up against the wall. I think this being a bit wider looks nicer up against this tall building. So anyways, that's where we got the 2 shapes from. I wanted the main building with the tower off to the side. And for the roof, the actual like look of it, I think partially it's inspired by like B-dubs, and then I watched a Marlowe video where he built something in B-dubs' style, and like having this side come up more like 1 or 2 blocks. I've actually seen a building around here where I live that kind of has that kind of look to it, and I thought it looked pretty nice, so I had that in mind. I'll see if I can find a reference image to post here. And for the tower, I wasn't sure at first. I was looking at some concept art, and I think having it more squared off, at first I was thinking about something round, but I think more squared off kind of fits with the look that we have going on here. And for the roof as well, at first I was going to have something like a spire or like some kind of cone, but I think this kind of roof looks nice. It's the same style as this, with a little bit of variation to differentiate it a little bit and have some variety, but with it clearly being the same aesthetic. And it might be a bit wonky, but I think it actually looks kind of nice. So that's what we've got so far. A chimney here, which actually is the input of the system. So we're going to rework it a little bit so that it doesn't look too bad from the front. And we're going to have to redo the interior to make it accessible. But with this roof here, we have quite a bit of room anyways to reroute the whole thing. And for this wiring, there's nothing that stops us from wiring it this way, so we should be pretty fine for that. And then we can have something coming up here where we can actually do the collection outside. I'm gonna imitate someone. Can you tell who it is? Aha. Okay. Anyways, so I've bit of an update, and last we spoke, I had this over here, and then I started working on some color palettes. And at first, I was going to go for something red because I thought it would look nice against the prismarine roof, which I wanted. And I still think it could be cool for some kind of house, but I moved over to this dye right here because I think for the kind of church cathedral thing that we're going with, the white and the prismarine goes really well, especially with the wall design that we have going. Wall design sounds fancy, it's just a wall, but with it coming like into the same kind of color ish into the top here, I think it fits more and it blends more, and it sells the effect more than having two different colors here and having it trim. So we're going with this. I've kind of been working on it a bit. So a few things. For one, if we move up to the chimney here, I've gone ahead and made it smaller, and we're for sure going to have to revamp the input system in the survival world because it doesn't fit anymore with that. But I think for the look of the building, it's better. And besides, we have plenty of space here to rewire that and probably have it like be a double or triple input so that it's more efficient, so we don't get the problem that we saw earlier in the video. We have a balcony here that I'm going to leave open so that I can easily fly in and out when I want to just drop some ores off, which I think is going to be kind of cool. And this big window here, and you can take out like a kind of glass thing going on here to have some kind of effect. I think it looks nice with the colors, and this is multi-layered, something I saw B-dubs do. Now, I've been working and trying to figure out what I do for these walls. I have a lot to learn with texturing still, and I have a hard time with it. And partially, I think it's the size of my builds. Like, they're not super mega massive, and a lot of times I see them from up close. So I kind of don't want to have too much stuff because it looks distracting from up close. This is still quite big, but it's not like stupid big, so I'm not sure. So I've been kind of toying around with it, and to kind of circumvent that for now, that's why I got like this window in here and trying to work on an entranceway, which I like this idea. I think we're going to rework the shape because I'm not sure if I like this per se, but we'll see. Like for just texturing, like I can't bring myself to just randomly add splotches of stuff because I just feel like even with the diorite, even though it's the same, they're both white, I don't know. I mean, it just feels like it sticks out too much and looks kind of dookie. But maybe it's just a technique thing. So, and I think you've seen enough for now. Let's say we get building this thing, go through a nice little time lapse, and then you can see the aftermath. And we'll talk about the details then. By the way, I've been tweaking my skin throughout this episode, and what do you think? I think I like this a lot. It's really cool. The cape isn't supposed to be part of it. If you check out my name, you can probably guess where the original inspiration was. It was just kind of trying to be a bit goofy, honestly. But I've kind of leaned into the fantasy kind of aspect of the world here with my boots and my like gauntlet over here and these straps and my belt and whatnot. Which, by the way, I came across this fine fellow and looked too quick and thought it was one of my old videos I forgot. Turns out the guy's just really handsome and I thought it was me. Anyways, see you on the other side. Alrighty, here she is all done. So honestly, it's been quite a while since that last clip, and I'm not quite sure where we left off. But anyways, let's just go through it all. I've kind of tried my hand at texturing it a little bit. As you can see, we got some in the front here and over here. This side I didn't really care too much about. We got some here, and I think it's really nice. The main issue in terms of texturing is going to be this right-hand side here, which is like very, very plain. But I wanted to get the structure up at least, And it'll be something that I'll tweak throughout the episodes, and as we're going forward with the world, I want to add decorations to the side anyways, so at least we have it in and we can make it better with time. But if we look from the front here, I think what we've changed from last time is I've added in this little doorway, which is kind of like made to look like there's two doors that are kind of opened. So I got these on diagonals a little bit to give that effect. We got these windows here that I've been trying to like play with the walls and the glass panes to mess around with the shapes to make them like less T-like and more round. So if we get, oops, a little bit closer, you can see all this is like too thick, right? So we got this back layer of glass blocks of multiple colors, and on the front here we have walls and glass panes to kind of pull certain things in certain ways to mess with the shapes, and I like the way it looks. Plus with like slight texturing here, it kind of gives everything a bit of a different shape, kind of, that I think makes it look really, really nice. I really like the chimney. And over here, this was really cool, and I'm not gonna I don't think I innovated this at all, but it's really cool. So same idea here. I think this is in total 3 layers. So the backmost layer is actually black wool over here that I added in towards the end to kind of make the colors of the glass panes and the glass blocks show more, to kind of sell the illusion or the shape, if you will, a bit further. So yeah, I think that's really cool. So we can have some black glass in the back there, and we have some green glass right here, and I think there's some light gray panes in front and maybe in the back, but I think it's just green, black, and light gray to give this kind of shape. And up here, at first, this was just an open archway, so I could easily fly in and out of the building. But I watched Marlowe's most recent video where he built the building to world height, and he had a window that was actually just falling water as well, so he could just easily get in and out of that floor. And I thought, hey, that's cool. So that's what I've done here. It kind of changes the look for sure, because it's very, very blue compared to the rest, but I don't think it looks bad, and it just adds a nice little detail for us to fly in and out of our building. So in terms of what we saw last time, I think that's about it that's changed. I've added some jungle trapdoors here for that little window there, just a little detail, and it adds a nice just little line of sliver of color. And if we go on the inside, however, we still have no interior done, which is going to be the next step. And also I think it's worth mentioning that up top here, where the input system was, I've had to take it down because it didn't like fit the shape, and I wanted to make the building look nice. But we have plenty of room here to rework that, so that's another thing we're gonna have to think about. With how long it's been since my last video, because I've been busy, I was thinking of once this is done, that should be plenty, and I could like edit everything and send it out. But I kind of feel like I should do the interior before finishing. I think we can squeeze it into this one, even though it'll probably take 10 hours for me. But yeah, I think we're gonna do that. Just gotta figure out how we actually want to do everything. Not quite sure. Place is pretty big. Alright, come check out what I've done so far. I got some flooring in on this first little floor here, and I went with green terracotta over there and raised it so that it fit with the system that was in place. Kind of keep with the theme that we have going on here, and I wanted to implement some red to kind of contrast it. So that's why we got this little section here. I may outline this like this. I'm not sure yet. I don't actually notice it. I'm fine. Then I turn around, it kind of bugs me. So I might do that. But anyways, we have this like line of stairs here with diorite, which I think just makes it look really nice. And this is kind of like the wall that we have for our storage system, if you will, here. So we got it halfway down where we got a bunch of doors and some trapdoors. It might be a bit excessive having a door for each thing and really not really useful, but I think it looks nice. And then we have it coming out by one with some stairs here and alternate between trapdoors and logs, not logs, planks. This little design that looks nice. Bring up to a curved little roof with some 2 lanterns here. And since we have the sea lanterns underneath the chests, we don't need to put too many lighting sources, and it's still well lit. And I think it looks really cozy and it's nice. I started trying to decorate here with like some mess of barrels and chests, and I think this could be like when I'm mining or something and I don't want to bother doing the input or whatever at the moment, I could like put them in here and do it later. But I think what I'm going to do is get like just the main floors and rooms done, and then all the little details and stuff we're going to want to do them for sure. But that might be for another episode for real this time, because it's starting to become quite a hefty video. But I like this. And then if we head over to here, we're going to skip over this section. We just brought the same thing here for the smeltable items. And I've also brought in the wall in a bit. Nothing back here is done. So I think I'm not going to decorate everything and make every little square block possible a room, because it's not really worth it, I think. And I'm just going to make sure that I have rooms that are nice and decorate those rooms. And the rest is going to be space, just so we could have a nice building on the outside. And kind of split up this little area here between the non-smeltables and the smeltables. I add some paintings with some sea lanterns behind them so that they're lit up a bit. And I've kind of inset this little room here. And this is meant to be like the little workstation for whenever we're getting our ores or whatnot. So the idea is we have some slight decorations here. We have a crafting table. So if I want to make copper rods, if I want to make iron doors or whatever, then I can just grab the stuff here and then craft it up here instead of going all the way back home or having to always make sure that I have a crafting table on me. That's the idea anyways. And then we have our little workbench here with some knickknacks. And this is just a placeholder. I stumbled upon Dallas MC's World Tour. I think it was episode 650. And it was the first video of his that I've seen, which is surprising. And it was awesome. And he had this thing where he used white maps. Well, maps that were taken in snowy biomes that were completely white with some pixel art to make some whiteboards. So this is just a placeholder for now until I can actually do that, because I don't know where I could find a place big enough to do that. So I might have to make my own custom white spot just to make some whiteboards. But I thought it was pretty cool, so I could plan out like stuff that I'm building or whatever in the story. And over to the right hand side, we have a bookshelf, a loom, and we have a chisel bookshelf, which is the first time I'm actually using this for what it's supposed to be used. So if we go and pick out, let's say, this book, we have recipes volume 1 iron, and for the moment they're all empty. But if I open it, I'm going to have, well, this is where I'm going to put, for example, all the recipes that use iron and all the recipes that use gold. We'll do that in the gold book, which I think is this one here. Yeah, we have copper here, and I can make some more for everything over here. It's really not necessary because I have the crafting book in the inventory, but I think it's cool. So we'll do that some other time, maybe in between episodes, maybe this summer we'll do some streams. I don't know. We'll see. So yeah, there's our first floor. Like I said, we'll decorate it further in future episodes or during the summer. But for now, I think this is nice and I'm happy with this. And you might have seen that back here, nothing is done so far. So what I'm thinking is these doors are purely decorative because I can fully access everything here anyways. I think what we're going to do is we're going to have this come into a little mini room here so that I can access these hoppers and barrels if for some reason I would need to. But most importantly, we're going to have some kind of staircase to get up to the input floor, if you will, as well as the floor where our kelp farm begins. But I don't think the rooms that are like going to be access to the hoppers or the systems, like to make sure everything's fine, those I probably would like to make actual rooms out of them eventually and decorate them. But for today, that might not be on the table. All right, so we've got some more done. It's not finished in terms of what we're supposed to do, but I wanted to give you guys a bit of an update. So if we head through this door here, we can see I got kind of a layout. So I got some flooring here and a bubble column going up. So I think for sure before finishing this episode, we'll at least like wall this off so it looks like a room. But for now, let's go check upstairs. So we got this bubble column here. So we head on in and we can like get a glimpse of the electronics. And we got this totally pointless little extra redstone bit here where I hit the string, which gets detected by the observer, which sends a signal to this piston, which pushes me up onto this block here. So in theory, I can't really get down. Anyways, let's open this door, and I got this at least working for now. It's not done, like in terms of decoration. This side I haven't touched at all. But it works, and I think the shape is odd because of how I've had to fit everything in, but it's got its charm. So if you look over here, we have like an updated module where we're gonna place our ores and then mine them. And I've got like an iron bar here. So I think I should be good to mine here without like accidentally breaking the roof. And this is wood, so we're fine with that. I got my lever here to start up the machine, which heads down this line here. Same idea as before. And I'm just gonna turn this off for now. So if you recall, we had a problem where when I was mining, stuff would accumulate too fast for the hoppers because this dispensed too fast. So what I've done to counteract that, and I haven't been able to test it yet, but I'm pretty confident in this little simple fix, is what I mine is going to head into this first hopper, which is going to all accumulate in this barrel. So what was happening is I think this was the limiting factor, but with this like extra little bit of storage here in the barrel, this should be able to empty fast enough into the barrel to where that's not an issue unless I like mine enough to fill up the barrel. But I don't think that's going to happen, or at least not while the machine is still running. So I think we're good. Next time we use it, we'll just have to see, I suppose. So yeah, we got that there, and I got an armor stand here, and I've added a thing so I can add arms to it. So this is my fortune pickaxe that I always use, that I keep in my shulker box, but now I can just leave that here. And then when I want to use it, just come over here, pop that, do my stuff, and then leave it here. So I don't have any risk of losing it. It's always readily available. And yeah, that's pretty much the reasoning. I actually think this room, the colors are wonky and a bit random. Like this bit here is not exactly coordinated very well, but I think it's still pretty good. I like it. This has been like an episode that's been quite a while in the making. So the build was done in creative, the exterior, the actual machinery was done in creative, and usually rebuilding it, I kind of get a little bored at some points, especially when it's a big build, kind of like our tower over, where is it? There? But this, not being too massive, made it not that bad actually. And it's fun to mix that like pre-planned stuff with some of this, which is kind of like off the cuff and improvising and making stuff up as you go along. It's really entertaining. All right, so I think we're pretty much done for today. Come and check this out. So I've gone ahead and closed off this room here. So obviously there's not like much variety or details yet, but we've got the room down and it's quite small. But at least it sections off all of this stuff. I might put like a door in here somewhere to access the back anyways if I need to. But yeah, I think this is pretty cool. We have our elevator here that is the same as before. Leads up the room. So in every build I usually have like a little bedroom. So for now, this is it. And yeah, so up here, this is all pretty much the same. But I've gone ahead and changed the floor here for some more spruce, and I got some pillars up, and the ceiling that isn't perfect because of the nature of the machine with slabs and everything, but unless you're like right here looking up at it, you can't tell. And yeah, I think it looks nice, and it leads up to the balcony here, which is usable to be able to actually look out on the village, which I think this view is really, really cool. It's cool to see it from over there, but this being a bit like closer, since it's actually in the village, is pretty awesome. And yeah, this is the porch. So there's just this here that I'm not crazy about, like these signs. When you're up here, it does look kind of goofy because they're just floating signs. You can't tell from down here, and it's just because otherwise I couldn't stop the water from flowing and then overflowing up top like here. So if any of you have any other solutions, or ideas, let me know. I appreciate it. I was thinking maybe getting pale oak signs and then putting these up here so you'd see it from up close but not from afar, since they will stop rendering, but the water will still flow from the center here, so I'm not quite sure of an elegant solution for this, but it doesn't matter, at least not for now. With that being done, I think we're gonna call it here today, guys. I've been having too much fun doing this, and if I don't stop myself now and get to editing, this episode will never come out because I'll just play forever. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode and seeing my journey through my first redstone project. This was so much fun. I think this is one of the most fun episodes I've had making in a long time, and not that the other ones are not fun, but I really enjoyed learning about redstone and learning all these tricks, and I think it's definitely something that we'll be doing a lot more in future episodes. For anyone who is not super redstone savvy and hesitant to learn about it, I'd say it's worth giving a shot. It's fun. So with that being said, guys, let me know what you guys think. If you've enjoyed and want to see more, then please feel free to like and subscribe and talk to me down in the comments. Hope you have a good one. I'll see you guys on the next installment. Bye for now.